Hello, everybody. It's your boy, the Punk Otaku Scribe, and welcome to my review of Batman Capes Crusader, episodes 1 through 3. It's kind of a miracle that we're sitting here watching and reviewing this because this show had a really tumultuous production cycle. Everything at Warner Brothers last year pretty much did. It they were doing their tax write-offs, right? And this was almost a victim of that. But it survived it. They decided to sell it. It started getting shopped around to a bunch of networks, and Prime Video decided to pick it up. It landed a home at Amazon. And Warner Brothers is gonna be kicking themselves about that because after seeing just these first three episodes, it's all I've seen so far. After seeing this, I can safely say that this is the worst bag fumble I've ever seen from Warner Brothers. This show is excellent. Now, at least so far it is. As I mentioned, at this point, I've only seen the first three episodes, but I can't really imagine that it can get any worse. I can definitely see it getting better, but I don't see a scenario where it gets bad. This writing is so stellar. This show really invokes the feeling of the original animated series with its style, with its art deco. It feels extremely noirish. It's exactly what Batman felt like in the 90s. Like this guy, right? It feels exactly like that. It's almost as if the animated series never left. But this isn't quite Batman the animated series. It is different. It's a bit edgier, it's a bit more violent, it's definitely a lot darker. Episode 1 really does well to establish this world that we're about to experience, right? It First of all, it takes place in a time where no one really knows who Batman is yet. I found that really interesting. Typically in Batman media, when it comes in, at least lately, Batman's already established, so are his villains, everyone knows who he is. There's not really that much of a mystery to him. One, because we really already know Batman, and second, because, well, there's no reason to put an air of mystery on him if the city already knows who he is and his villains already know who he is. Here, they brought back his mystique. I've found it's really, really cool. It's really refreshing. We've gotten a lot of Batman over the years. That's all we seem to get is Batman, right? But this was so refreshing because it's going back, like I mentioned, to that Bruce Timm animated series style. It feels so familiar, but still so refreshing. And I think that's why it feels so refreshing, is that it does feel nostalgic, but not really in a pandering, cynical way. Now, right before the show premiered, it was revealed that the penguin in this would be a woman named Oswalda Cobblepot. Lazy name, whatever. But when I heard about the change, my first knee jerk thought was, why? Why are they doing that? I didn't have a problem with it, but I just found it kind of quizzical. Like, why would they do that? What's the point of that? And seeing it, I do kind of see what they were doing here. They wanted to change the dynamic that the penguin has within the world. At least that's what I'm seeing, right? She's really great. She's a great character, a great villain. She does something really, really cold really early on, and it really establishes how ruthless she can be. The penguin is ruthless anyway, but overall, I didn't really see a huge reason why they needed to make her a woman, but it's not really a problem. It's not really something to get worked up over. It's just a change that you see in comics sometimes, right? So there's always like a one off story in a graphic novel or in a comic where some characters are different or some characters behave differently, and then it has nothing to do with the overarching story of the series as a whole, right? It's just kind of a one-off thing. And that's kind of what this is. The fact that she's a woman, the Penguin is a woman now, is really of no consequence. But she's a cool character, so I think it's just fine. Episode 1 was a great start. I loved everything about it. It The story, the Penguin, Batman, the established characters, it was all really well done, gorgeously animated, beautifully told. But episode 2 is where things get really, really good. Episode 2 is absolutely my favorite of these 3 episodes. And I wouldn't be surprised if it actually ended up remaining my favorite episode of the series so far. I've heard some things about the last 2 episodes and how that writing just kind of takes the show to an 11. But right now, episode 2 is the one that I'd say made me fall in love with the show. It's an impeccably written murder mystery whodunit. It's the Clayface episode. An actress goes missing. She's kidnapped, and Detective Montoya is investigating her disappearance. She goes and meets with this actor who she pins as the suspect because he mentions not having seen her in months, but it's revealed that he saw her prior the previous week. And there's just a lot of twists and turns this episode. There's a red herring character that you believe he's the one that did it, but no, it's another character that did it. And then it turns out that this guy is Clayface when you thought that the other guy was Clayface. And not only does it have just really twisted, edge of your seat writing like that, it's also really dark. This is probably the darkest animated Batman has gone in a long time, especially a show of this caliber. It's not too adult or anything. I don't think it's something that, at least so far that I've seen, it's not something that, like, say, 12 and up can't watch, right? But it has gotten darker than the animated series has so far, especially in episode 2, with some of the deaths that are seen in these first 2 episodes. I mean, it gets really grim, especially here in episode 2. Now, I don't want to speak on this episode too much because I don't want to spoil it. It's just that good. I'm typically not too against giving spoilers if I feel like I need to mention them, but this one I can't do it. I can't. I wouldn't feel right about it. You need to go into this episode not knowing any of the twists and turns. It's that good. So take my word for it. Episode 2, best episode of these first 3 episodes by far. Then we get in on episode 3, Kiss of the Catwoman. This episode, as its title, introduces us to Selena Kyle, Catwoman, voiced by Christina Ricci, by the way, and she does a really good job. Honestly, everyone does a really good job. You have Diedrich Bader as Harvey Dent, which is funny because Diedrich Bader has been playing Batman for quite a long time. So it's really cool to see him in this, but he's playing a Batman villain now, which is funny. Hamish Linklater or Hamish Linklater. I'll look into it. I'll research that. On how to pronounce that, but he's doing a great Batman. He is fantastic, actually. I had read somewhere that he wanted very much to not do a Kevin Conroy impression. Extremely respectable. And he's not doing one. He's doing his own thing, and it's perfect. It's a perfect voice for Bruce Wayne and Batman. Some of these voices are downright unrecognizable. I didn't know who was who. That's how good everyone is here, and it really serves the show. But anyway, Catwoman is introduced in this, and you start off with the episode with Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle at this like I think it's like a museum show, right? And they have the Thomas and Martha Wayne's belongings on display there. And there's this photographer there that is taking pictures of the items, and he says something kind of disrespectful about Martha Wayne, and Bruce Wayne punches the lights out. This makes Bruce Wayne have to go under anger management or something like that. But he has to go through psychiatry sessions with Harleen Quinzel. Up to this point, right, we haven't really gotten to know Batman slash Bruce Wayne. He's just been doing Batman stuff, fighting criminals, solving a mystery, but we haven't really gotten to know who he is, right? In this episode, we do. There's the scenes with his sessions with Harleen Quinzel are really interesting because we get to know him. We get to see what makes him tick. There are flashback scenes in this episode that show him as a kid, and I was really worried that they were actually going to show the alley shooting, which we have seen over and over and over again. And thankfully, they don't do that. They show the aftermath, but they don't show the actual killing of the Waynes. And I was so thankful for that because at this point, we don't need to see it. It was as good a decision to not show that, at least as far as I've seen. They haven't shown it. It was as good of a decision to not show that as it was to not show Uncle Ben's death in the MCU with Tom Holland Spider Man, right? We don't need to see it. The origin. Batman and Spider Man, we've seen the origins a million times. We don't need to see it. And this show decided we didn't need to see it. And I was really thankful for that. But they don't shy away from young Bruce's trauma. I can't remember any piece of Batman media, to my knowledge, that actually went into that too much. Uh, from what I remember, it's typically Thomas and Martha Wayne get shot. Then we flash forward. He's an adult and he's becoming Batman to take revenge on criminals in Gotham, right? Here in episode 3, we see that trauma affect him. And it sort of it sort of comes about in a really like scary way when he's a kid. He wakes up Alfred in the middle of the night and he's standing in the doorway like this with his arms up and his legs out, and he's just looking at Alfred and he goes, "They're all gonna pay." And Alfred wakes up and is super like, what are you doing?" He goes, "They're all gonna pay and you're gonna help me." Just like that. And Alfred, you can tell, is afraid of him. From that point, he's kind of worried about him. In fact, I've noticed that the relationship might be a little bit strained. When he's an adult, you don't really see it as a kid, but when he's an adult, Batman calls him Pennyworth. He doesn't call him Alfred, which I found really interesting. This episode doesn't really say why, but in the first 2 episodes, I noticed that. And he does it again in episode 3 too. He's still doing it. He calls him Pennyworth. And I don't know if there's a reason for that that's established later on, but I find that really interesting. And it seems as if like they're not as close as previous iterations of Alfred and Batman. But we get these sessions with him. We see what makes Bruce Wayne tick, while at the same time we're seeing Selina become Catwoman. She's this trust fund kid who's blown all her money, and she has this maid who is just tired of her. She hasn't paid her in months. Actually, I think she says like 3 years at the end of the episode. Hasn't paid her in years. The bills are piling up. There's cats everywhere. She's just so fed up with her. She's a really irresponsible rich kid. And apparently this origin belongs to some other cat-themed character in Batman lore. I would have no idea who that is. Let me know down in the comments if you do know. But for Selina Kyle, this is a very different portrayal. And Christina Ricci really brings that. She really brings just like a spice to the role to this kind of thing. This Catwoman isn't just like a stoic, sexy seductress. She has her moments where she's seducing Batman, but she's not. That's not really who she is. She's more of just like this immature adult that wants to also be a cat burglar thief, and she's using her parents' money to do it and just blowing it. She's terrible at it. It's really funny. Again, it was the weakest of the 3 episodes. The best part about it was the Bruce Wayne origin stuff, but I still thoroughly liked it. It made me want to watch more. This is a really great episode. So if you can't tell, I'm thoroughly in love with this show just with these first 3 episodes, and I don't see myself falling out of love with it. In fact, it may, like, so far, just how I'm feeling right now, it may be my favorite show of the year right now. And I don't see that changing with the next 7 episodes. I can only feel like it'll get better from here. And from what I hear, it does. It gets astronomically better. So, yeah, it may have just cemented to be my favorite show of the year. But what do you think so far? If you're watching it, have you seen the whole season? Do you plan on watching this at all? Let's talk everything Batman and DC and superheroes down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.